Great. So our next speaker is Elias Torres, the CTO of Drift, who is going to talk from a slightly different angle. He just gave a great introduction to chatbots. Elias has been working on a number of different chatbots at Drift that are more web-based than the sort of more messenger-based and some of the stuff that Matthias has been working on. So let's give it up for Elias.
Thank you guys for having me. I think that was an excellent intro, and I actually learned a lot. I don't build bots on Facebook Messenger, so I didn't know all the capabilities. And so let me tell you a little bit about Drift. Basic headline, we make it easy for your customers to buy. I think one of the lessons that we've learned while we were at HubSpot is that B2B businesses, right, make it so complicated for a customer to buy. It's like we create websites, we put forms on them, we tell people to fill out the form, then we tell them, we put them in some nurturing workflow, and then we have a lead scoring system, and then we send them an email, blah, 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 and it's just complicated. So what we're doing, our mission is to make it simple, right? And that's where chatbots come in. How many of you would like to build your own business? Okay, good. So I'm going to talk to you from the perspective, like, Matthias has, a kayak. They got like, I don't know, billions of dollars or something. And they have customers, they have a product. And so they're building this bot, right, to augment their service and explore what that could do. But here's as with Drift, right, is basically we're building a product from scratch. And we're trying to figure out, like, how can bots help us? And a lot of people, so I want to update you on like this thing called the Gartner hype cycle chart. Anybody has seen this before, right? And so what happens is that there's this technology trigger, and that's kind of what happened with AI and bots. And like all of a sudden, like, okay, bots are hot. And something triggers it, and that's like maybe Facebook Messenger launching a platform to build bots. And now all of a sudden everyone's interested. What can we do with bots? And the trigger launches this hype, and it just starts growing to the point that it gets to the peak of inflated expectations, because everyone is expecting now bots to solve all the world's problems. And what happened is that, so this peak, my update is that we're over here. So we're coming down from the hype. Last year was really the year of bots. This year is the year of voice now. So like we moved on as the world. Like this is so last year, guys. I'm sorry, I hate to tell you this. But what's happening is that last year it was so hyped up that about at least 200 companies received investment from VCs to build bots. These are companies that are starting from scratch. And now what happens is that, from what I hear, I was at a conference in South by Southwest talking about bots, and realized that now all the VCs are saying, show me the money, right? It's like, tell me what you built with bots. Tell me how is this any different? And so that's what we're going down right here in the cycle, and we have to get all the way to the bottom. You go high, you're going to fall down, and then we're going to have to come back. And when there's like all this technology, all this advancement, all these things that we've seen before, really finally come together as we have experience in trial and error and adoption and so forth, is that we'll get to the plateau of productivity where like bots will be like part of the future. Whatever role they're going to play in the future, it's just going to be there, and everyone's going to use them, and there will be no questions. So I'll tell you here, like, I'm building a company with bots, and we're in free fall right now, but there's an opportunity. I really like to start companies after either a finance crash or like after a hype crash, because a lot of the people will just go away. They give up quickly, and this is the time when you have to persist, and you got to keep going, because if you make it through this, you'll be ahead when this picks up again. Everyone's with me so far? Let me know if I'm talking too much crap. So right now everyone wants to build a bot, and we're how many of here are engineers? Good, we're hiring. recruiting drift is a typical thing to say for a startup. I want to be the first one. And so what happens is that, oh, I want to build a bot. It's like, oh, it's like, yes. And we want to build a bot. And then it's like, I have a great idea. It's going to order my pedicure, and it's going to be quick, and it's going to be fast. I just have to understand a few things. I'm going to go ahead and do this and launch a bot, talk to some VCs, get some money, start a company, become successful. It's really hard to build a company based on bots, right? Because you have to understand that to build a business, there's a lot of challenges that come with it. And one of them is that you have to solve a real problem. You have to find out who your target buyer is. Before Matias could build this bot, I'm sure him and other people did it, right? It's not just him, but I'll give him the credit today. They had to build Kayak first. They had to build an entire, Air First search engine and bring customers in marketing and distribution, website, investment, the whole 9 yards, right? Partnerships, airlines, and so forth, to then be able to build a bot. And so we have to keep in mind that doing this, it's really, really difficult. There's a lot of UI, UX experience that you have to put into the bot to make sure that it's successful. You think because you build it and you try like the one path that works, that it's going to be perfect. But the reality is that when you put it in front of somebody else, they're going to be like, this is confusing. I don't know how to do this. The other thing that I've learned in building companies is that the platforms will screw you over, right? If you try to build a company on top of something like Facebook Messenger, Facebook has already done this before. Some of you might not be old enough, but what happened is like Facebook built a platform before, and there were companies like Zynga and stuff that built apps. They became huge, and then Facebook says, no more APIs. Boom, turns it off. Your entire business collapses, right? And so we've learned that, and we wanted to make sure that we were building something that could protect itself for the future of my business, right? That I needed to solve all these things. I have to figure out onboarding. I had to figure out distribution, support, the utility, what platforms it was available on, and how do I deal with those things that I know that were coming, right? There are companies that are built like just Facebook Messenger, and I did it, I deployed it. I am waiting for Facebook to build a better app store, a better bot store, so people can find me, and then they come and install it. We wish that all that was free, but it does take a lot of work, and the more of that you resolve, the higher the chance that you're going to succeed. So let's go back a little bit on that hype cycle. July 2016, I'll give you the honest story of how we started building bots. Again, our problem was that we decided to help was we wanted to help businesses sell, right? And what we observed was that messaging, the world was changing because of messaging, and people wanted to not get on the phone and talk to a business, but they wanted to chat with the business. These are the chat bubbles that we're talking about on websites, right? It's like we wanted to improve that. But we had this question during this hype of 2016 of bots. Are bots real? Are bots not real? And we would go back and forth, my co-founder and I, and just be like, bots are bullshit. No way. We're not building that. No way. We don't need it. We need humans. Humans are more important. Humans need to talk to humans. But then one day we were like, it's like a Monday, usually talk on the phone before we get into the office, and we're like, fuck it, we're building bots. Okay, let's build a bot. And so we're like, we said we're going to build a bot, and we're like, okay, we're announcing it on Product Hunt next Tuesday. This is Monday. Code it up. Make sure it's done before Friday, right? And it was like, okay, no problem. So we're like, what do we solve? What do we do? So let me give you a little bit more context. What Drift is you install one line of JavaScript in your website. Any business in the world can come to drift.com, put in their email address, get a JavaScript snippet, they put it on their website, and they'll have a chat bubble that says, talk with us, right? And so what we wanted is like, okay, now that we have our own distribution, how do we add a bot functionality to it, and how do we start? It's a very hard problem. I'm really impressed with how much is behind the Kayak bot, right? Because he's giving you really hard stuff. AI, natural language processing, different languages, different UI, and different cultures. And we were like, we have to launch a bot in less than a week. So I'm going to show you the source code from our first bot. We're like, it's greeting. The key line in this here, where all the intelligence lies, is at the bottom. It says greetings.contains. Greetings.contains, right? And then the next line, it says greetings is an immutable set of the word hi. Okay, you guys follow me? So this was our bot. If you set the word hi to the chat window, the bot was going to respond. And what we decided to do was like, what's the simplest thing? And that's really part of our philosophy at Drift, and it was at HubSpot. This is my fourth company with my co-founder. We kind of like understand each other really well. And we said, what's the simplest thing that we can deploy? And that's why we could do this in like a couple of days. And it was simply about, what if every time somebody come in and started chatting with the company, the bot could say, hi, what can we help you with? If you started with the greeting, and then said to them, are you interested in talking to someone in sales or support or anyone, right? And so that little thing is really what sets us on this path of adding bots and functionality and change our mind to be like human, and like, well, let's have the machine assist the humans as much as possible. And so what happened was that day that we launched, we had so many chats. I think we had probably like 500 chats that day when people were coming to our website because we had launched bots in the middle of the hype cycle. Lesson there. You got to jump in the hype cycle. Whenever you see it, go for it. And so what happened was that people were like, I want to see the bot. Give me the bot. And we're like, oh, the bot, it just contains hi. But the bot helped us so much. That day, we knew we were routing calls. We were like, okay, this person wants sales. So we had sales people talk to them. This one wants support. This one's like, oh my God, this is epic. And we were like, that really opened our mind to think, to not be perfectionists, right? And so I want to leave you with that today. One of those lessons, right, is that done is better than perfect. If you wait till you have the largest corpus of text in the world, that you have multi-language support, that you have all these impressive algorithms. My engineers were like, oh my God, people are going to ask us what kind of AI do we have? And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Just don't worry about it. Just ship it. But what was interesting is that the people that were coming to our website were like, this is awesome. I want to install Drift because it has bots. And that is how we started, right? This is the problem that I was describing at the beginning, right? It's like best-in-class approach is, I hate to because I built this at HubSpot, but is that we tell our customers, build the landing page, build the form. It becomes the lead into the CRM, get a nurturing email, wait 2 weeks, send them another nurturing email, then another nurturing email. And then the lead scoring kicks in. Are you qualified? Now, okay, a BDR will email you, maybe automated as well, and says, can we set up a time to meet? What times are you available? And then maybe at some point you end up having a meeting. And so from a visitor to a meeting is like less than 1%. It's like maybe 0.1% of the people that came to your website that you're actually going to have a meeting to sell them your business. And this is what we're set out to change and to rebuild from the ground up using messaging and having bots help us with that. The future that we see is you create a simple website, you put Drift on it that has bots and AI, and then the customer gets to talk to the right person in the company, where there's support, where there's sales. So that's what we're building, and since July, we've just been building bots and making them better. I'll show you a little bit of that progression, and then I'm done. Important reminder. Distribution is key to your success. If you depend on somebody else to distribute your product, you're in trouble. We had to build our own product, our own JavaScript, our own widget, and we have to support our customers installing it. It has to work. We're creating the last mile to the customer. and being the interface to the customer's customer, it's like creates this lock-in that allows you to have a shot at succeeding, right? If I tell my customers, oh yeah, install Facebook Messenger and I'll have a bot in there, they'll say like, get out of here. So this is what the widget looks like. This is a customer and the widget pops up and there's a million different settings in there. It's a lot of stuff, but I'll just focus on the bots. So we started with this identity routing bot, and then we built a suite of bots, right, to help you connect with your customers in real time, 24/7. One time I was in San Francisco, and I met this guy, and he was like, you totally can automate sales with a bot. And I'm like, oh, no, you're fucking crazy. No way. And then the more I thought about it, the more it becomes possible. And so we just take incremental steps, and we get in there closer. And I'll give you a little bit of proof of how much progress we made. So these are all the bots that we built, and I'll show you each individually. Identity bot and routing bot. This was like the first one. The first one is like, oh, they say hey, and then we added another word to the greeting and say hi or hey, hello, whatever, right? And so we launched this, and we like, the bot responds, hey, would you like sales and support? And so this person says sales, please, and we're like, okay, we found sales, great. We really ignored what they said. It didn't really matter at first, the first day. All I know is that when a human was reading the conversation, they saw what the customer typed. And there was no effort required for them to ask them that and to type it and to send it. And it keeps the customer engaged. So there's so much value to be read from here that it was like not easy to understand at first until we experienced it. And then we have the bot ask a very hard-coded question. Okay, let me get someone for you. What is your email in case we get disconnected? And then the people enter the email here, and now we have the identity of the person. And we do a whole bunch of stuff with that. For businesses, this is a big deal. The whole point is to go from an anonymous visitor on their website to an identified prospect. With this is where everything begins to actually make money. If they don't give you the email, might as well, you were not there. So this is the identity and routing bot. And like people were like, oh my, this is amazing. Please, I need Drift. I need Drift because no other system does this. And we're like, okay, we'll build bots. Is this being recorded? I hope not. So then we go, next one. Then we were like, customers are like, what else can you do? Can you have AI and just answer all my support questions for me? And we're like, okay, let's build something else. So we built support bot. And what we do with Drift is that it integrates with 6 or 10 of the most common knowledge-based systems out there, where businesses will enter all of their common help documents, and we're like integrated into that resource that they already built, and we're able to have the bot respond from there, right? So here we're starting to get a little bit more sophisticated. Contains couldn't do it anymore, and we're like, we're doing some Stanford libraries for NLP, lemmatization. We started learning some fancy stuff, and all we do is a function from some open source library, and we just pass this text, and then we just call the other API and just return whatever it returns. And so people are like, to this day, people are like, oh my God, this just changed my life. I built this knowledge base for my business, and no one ever goes to my website. Who goes to help.company.com to get an answer? Nobody wants to do that, right? And so, but here the bot now is available, and he's making use of that data that before was completely ignored. And so we're learning from here. We're there's a lot of stuff that we can mine and we can improve. But the thing is, you got to ship it. Then we added a lead bot where customers are we're being inspired by other systems like IBM, Watson, Conversation API, and other things where we now are creating, our customers are in control of the questions they want to ask. So normally they'll hire a human being. We call them BDRs, business development representatives, right? And these people will go and you train them and you explain how the product works and so forth. And you tell them, these are the questions I need you to ask to the customer. If they answer this and this and this to the following questions, this most likely is a good lead. And I want you to pass that to a sales rep. So what if we can automate that for them? And so we've been building now the ability for creating this conversation flows in Drift where we will use NLP and other things to match what the best possible answer to create what looks like and feels like a human interaction. And now we're moving away and we're telling people, remove your forms from your website. Because why do you want to ask them 15 fields on a form on a website when you can have a bot ask them and have smart responses based on what they answer, right? And at the end, it's still doing that, collecting the lead. So that's what we call the lead bot. And this is the kind of stuff that, together with this bot, the scheduling bot, is where we started experimenting, like Matthias was saying, that there's an opportunity for, not everything is going to be text-based. We have learned, right, that we think that text-based is simpler, but in some cases, you might end up answering 16 questions to something that is as simple as just click this button in this UI, right? Like if you wanted to have a bot schedule a meeting, you're not going to be typing like, what days are you available? I'm available these days. What time? No, not that time. I mean, think about it, right? It's just too hard. So what we did for our scheduling bot is that we now can expose your Google Calendar for our sales reps for your company. And we have a UI that the bot first will ask for the identity, and then we'll offer this simple UI that says, this days I'm available. You pick the day, and then you pick the hour, and you hit schedule, and then a meeting gets scheduled, and an invite gets sent to both of the customer, the sales rep, and the customer and the prospect. And so what this is doing is that, again, the edge is that we have our own distribution. We have our own platform. Matthias has to use Facebook Messenger and be like, oh, I have to do a server-side rendering of this image because I cannot render this in this way, right, the way I want it. But when we control the rendering, we can do whatever we want. It's harder. It takes more effort to do that, but it might pay off in the future, right? I'll tell you next year or the year after. Probably takes like 7 or 8 years to know if this worked or not. And so what's happening now is that we're getting close to replacing a sales rep because we have a bot that can target a message. We can target a visitor of a website just from the IP address, know which company it comes. If I want to sell to kayak.com, I can have a personalized bot from Drift that says, hi, welcome, you're from Kayak. We love Kayak at Drift, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to talk to us? And the person says, oh, okay. Clicks on that, goes through this questionnaire, doesn't even know, and if he fills it. And then you, at the end, he says, would you like to schedule a meeting with me? And then you say, and that person says, okay, yes. And then we offer the calendar, and a meeting got scheduled. And now our sales reps are just checking the calendar, and they go from the next sales meeting to the next sales meeting. But we're just getting closer and closer and closer. And I think our next speakers, right, will be able to show you an example of hey, let's close the deal automatically, right, and not need a human at all. So this is exciting. Our problem is a little bit more open-ended because we have to work with every business out there, and it's challenging. It's not easy, but you kind of have to think. You can't be taking the perfectionist approach. You have to think how can I solve the low-hanging fruit now? Ship it, get it out there, and you learn and you iterate. And you'll be amazed of how many people will see the value in what you're doing if you're solving a real problem. Done.
Any questions, guys?
What's the calculus behind, like you said, building all this infrastructure and all the engineering effort behind these bots, and how do you calculate the business value that bot provides versus sending them to a form, for example? How do you guys keep track of that, and is there any evidence that the bot increases that value?
In my case, is quite simple. In a way, at first we're building. There's a lot of competitors out to what we do, just like those chat bubbles that have talked to us, and so there's tons of them. It's commoditized, and so we had to. At first, we know that it's the usual. You have to build table stakes functionality to just even be compared to everyone else, right? We couldn't just have nothing and just build it. And the reverse might be true also. If I only had bots and had no way for a human to respond, people might also say, I can't use your tool. It's only a bot. I also need to respond to my customers when the bot can't figure it out. So we had no choice. We had to try whichever route. We started with we built our own product to have enough functionality to match the competitors. But now having the bots is being a big differentiator for us. And so the one thing I tell you that provides value is that we're closing deals because people are like not comparing us head to head with the competitor like Intercom, which is making $50 million in revenue, has raised over $100 million investment, and people are like coming to us and saying, but they don't have bots. And I can set traps when I'm competing with them in a deal, and I can say, compare us. Just ask them, do they have bots? Do they have knowledge-based integrations? Do they have identity collection? Do they have meeting scheduling? And blah, blah. And they're like, okay. And they go and ask them, and they say, do you have this, 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 and this? And they're like, no, we don't have that. And so they're like, come back, and they buy from us. So that's how I can tell you right now is like how much has been a huge help to us. But also, we see from the reaction of our customers where like that bot answering help from the knowledge base messages, it increases their efficiency, time to response, collects more leads, gets them more deals, closes more business in general. So it's been good.
Yeah, maybe answering from the kayak perspective, I think I can give you two angles. So the first angle is I think there is some truth in the way how users consume or use media. So like I think for a younger generation, let's just drop the word millennials, it may be true that they use less desktop computers, less laptops, that it's really like mobile first, mobile only, and that it's also like a lot of Snapchat or chat channel usage. And as a brand, we just want to be everywhere where our customer needs us. And from that perspective, it makes sense to be on Alexa, it makes sense to be on the Facebook Messenger, and it makes sense to be on Slack, because also actually a lot of travel planning happens during work. I think another angle you could look at it is, and I think that plays well into his use case, is that, like personally, for instance, when I have a problem with, let's say, Comcast, and I get there and I have the option, I can call someone or I can chat with someone, I know like, okay, if I go to the call pass, I'm probably like in a waiting line for like 30 minutes, and actually Jeff is trying to solve exactly that problem, but I feel like, okay, 30 minutes, I can hang on the phone, listen to ugly music, or I can have a chat window. And I don't care at that moment if it's a bot or if it's a human or a mixture of a bot and a human. It's just a much more convenient way for me not to listen to that background music. And so I'm very sure that us as brands, we can give the customer value in that. And a proof point for that is that also in the kayak use case, since we have the Facebook Messenger bot, of course we earned a replies instantly badge on our Facebook page, but we have seen a much stronger increase in support requests on the Facebook Messenger or on the Facebook channel, because people realize that this is a great way to communicate with a brand. Maybe also if you are a different time zone, or maybe you are booking on kayak but you don't feel so strong about your English or whatever. There may be so many reasons why people really appreciate that type of communication, and that's is a good strategy to be there.
All right, who else?
Are your bots self-learning? Do they improve?
Not yet.
Yeah, okay.
You saw the code.
Okay.
But for example, we have a lot of plans on the knowledge base, which is we can learn which questions are not generating results. And so we can be writing reports and telling you there's so many questions. So people are doing it by hand with us, right? They're monitoring the conversations overnight, and they're looking at all the ones that were handled by the bot, and they're like, oh, we should have an article for that. We should have an article for that. But before that, they had just very little traffic to the knowledge base. So, but again, we're learning this, and we can prioritize what's the first thing. Where can we learn? Remember, we're like dealing with every type of business. So it's like learning every business and how to respond is hard, but the knowledge base has been a very good entry point for us.
And also, like I sort of mentioned at the last meetup, by taking Elias's approach, you are collecting all this data, that even if right now he's not using machine learning to drive the decisions, they can at any time take all of that historical data and then feed that into the learning for the system that can drive it in the future. So it's good to do that early before you have machine learning to collect as much as you can. Anybody else have questions? Yeah.
Hey, so I want to ask about how do you qualify leads? Because it sounds kind of dangerous to go all the way from some visitor on the site to let's schedule a meeting with a sales rep when that could just be spam. It could be another bot interacting with your bot. So how do you go about making sure that you're getting actual users?
Well, hello? The good thing is that qualification, hello? That's fine. The good thing is that qualification, it's so brute force the way it happens today, right? It's like random fields in a form, not random, like some fields in a form that people can type whatever they want. And like, we make a qualification out of that. And then we have a human ask questions, and then the human says, okay, yeah, we should talk to this person or not. And so I think that what we're doing is we're just helping the bot ask those questions, and we still can make sense of the answers and decide whether to accept the meeting or not. We have the transcript of the conversation. We know what they said. We know their IP address. We know their email. We enrich the IP and the email from sources, LinkedIn profiles, company information, fundraise, and a lot of other stuff to kind of like validate whether we should be talking to this, accepting this meeting or not. We had somebody schedule a meeting with one of my designers, and it was like a competitor in India. Like starts asking her like, "What's your roadmap? What are you building next?" And she's like, and then the guy freaked out when she's like, "Why are you asking me this question? I don't even know you." So, but we don't. It doesn't stop us, right? We get so much more benefit from what people are getting. And yes, there are some customers that will say like, "This is stupid. I don't want to talk to a bot," right? And he's like, "Okay, I didn't know there were so many bots out there until like I started building them." But, you know, I don't let that derail me, right? Like, once customer pissed off.
How much customization do you allow your customers to make to your workflow? A little bit of conversation.
So that's been improving, right? Like the lead bot part of our system. The lead bot, what we've done is like a customer of mine is like Virgin. We're mostly B2B, but we have like Virgin came from Latin America, Virgin Mobile, and they wanted to hook up with my system because we had a distribution. We had UI, we had a widget that was professional, that was not Facebook, right? And they said, I need your API and I need to hook it up to IBM Watson. He wanted to automate increasing your credits on your phone and entering the PIN and actually making a transaction. And so he's like, I need to give your API, you need to call me every time there's a message. And then he passes this to IBM Watson, and then IBM Watson parses it for him. Intent this, PIN number, digits, things that I don't do yet. And then he'll call his backend, use the PIN number, validate, authenticate, and then increase and request from their credit card to give it increase the balance, and then send the final balance. Right? And he was like, I was mind blown, like what this guy wanted to do. It was like some VP of engineering in Jordan, deploying sites in Mexico, and I was like, wow, okay, let's do it. And so I went and looked at IBM Watson, and I learned that what they do is that they create these trees, and you create the dialogue, and then you can give it examples of potential answers for each part of the tree. And they'll use machine learning to use that to learn. And so we built something similar, right? Where we let you create the questions you want to ask, and you can give us as many examples. And we'll use machine learning to do the math and then do sentence similarity and other things. That is better than you trying to do contains, right? And so you can now create this choose your own adventure type of dialogue. Where it's like, okay, if they say this, talk about this. If they say this, talk about that. Which is pretty infinitely better than a form that you type 15 fields up front. You're pissed off about it. You submit it. It's just finished. one of the features that we're building is routing based on geography because the sales reps say, I own the West Coast and I own the East Coast, and we have to route chat. So we're starting to build things that are very call center like.
So let me ask you this also. Is the call center addicted?
Yes. Yeah, I want to take that.
Short answer.
One step at a time.
No, but one thing that David, yeah, but I was going to just mention for one other thing you mentioned that one thing that David, his co-founder, has talked about a lot is that even in saturated markets, there's always space for something. Like if you have a great product, like saturated markets is like vindication that this is something that people want. So if you do something better than other people, you can get market share on that, and I think that they proved some of that. So
we call it the wedge, right? We're almost 3 years in, and we're like, we kept looking, what's the wedge, what's the wedge, what's the wedge, right? And it's like, at first, it's another chat tool. It's like, I can promise that I will make it better, and it will be better, but how is it going to be better? So by focusing on sales, we started on our own.
I guess just to add on to that long term, that when you say like BDR and sales, is that business? Like people qualify with this?
Yeah, I mean, my vision for the world now is that every website in the world needs to have a chat component to it, right? Because it's so hard to build an interface to navigate the site in a friendly and simple, easy way. And so you're not going to have time to like, do you really want to go to a website and try to find the contact page that might be like, super buried in the UI that you can never find it, right? You have to sign in or whatever. You have to search the help, the knowledge base before you can get the contact number and so forth, right? You know this problem too, right? So what happens, I want every website in the world of any kind to have a chat tool and to have a bot that has a personal assistant to help you with your business and to offer capabilities to just enhances your services because we cannot have humans behind every single website 24/7. If I have a small website, small business, I cannot afford to hire 24/7 call center. It's impossible. And so that's what I see more in the future.
but one thing I would just as a aside to enhance that is that it's great to have that. We actually have a web-based bot as well, on the homepage that you can start interacting with. But it's great to actually take the content, some of the content that you generate based off of that, and actually generate kind of landing pages, because ultimately when people are searching on Google, especially if you have a publicly facing site, you can leverage a lot of the information to create a lot of spots for people to land on your site from Google that they wouldn't necessarily. So it's a good content generator as well.
Yeah. I've never had this many questions.
Thank you for answering that. So I love what you're doing. But when I go to your website and I see a little chat pop up, my expectations get away from that. Thinking spam is trying to tell me shit what to do. But how are you overcoming that like expectation that all the spammy like chat pop up posing?
Testing. This one works. I think that Matthias hit this in the nail, right? I think it's a generational thing. The world is changing. You look pretty young to me, so you're supposed to be on my side. But what's happening is like one of our investors, Ezra CRV, he said that he's old school, right? I don't know how old, he's like almost 60. And like I'm 41, by the way. I'm not discriminating older people. But the thing about it is that he's trying to go to Machu Picchu with his family, and he went to some small rinky-dinky travel agency that does tours in Peru, and he got the chat, and he's just like, usually says, no, I don't want to do that. And he clicked on it, and he bought like a $2,000 tour package from them. They sold him. And so he doesn't feel like he was sold. He's like, he solved his problem, and hopefully he has a great experience. I think that it's a very, remember, we're in the hype cycle, and some people are trying it, some people don't like it, some people do, some people, we can't win them all. It's our job to, maybe chat is not going to be the only interface, the only channel to communicate. There's landing pages, there's going to be voice, there's going to be phone, there's going to be everything, email. But it's just, it's exciting to build something that a large percentage of our customers are really liking it, right? And people are really becoming used to, like, other companies that you interact with, you have to email back and forth like 10 times. You know, it's like, yeah. If when somebody puts Drift on their website, they don't increase their revenue, guess what they do? They uninstall it. And so do I have some uninstalls? Yes, I do. And so, but let's see if we can build a big company. Let's build another Kayak, another HubSpot here.
So
this is the insurance fight. These guys are good, so it's got a tough question ahead.
So considering that you're not using a well-known platform, are you finding that most of your audience that's engaging is maybe mobile versus desktop, maybe a platform that people are used to engaging with chat?
No, our bot works on mobile web, right? So like when you go to a website that has Drift installed from a mobile browser, it works.
But do you find that your engagement rate is higher on mobile versus desktop?
I wish I had the exact data on that, but it's really, there are businesses that most of their like 50% of the traffic or higher comes via mobile, and they're also engaging in the chat, and we have to make sure that it's smooth, that the scrolling works, that the experience doesn't suck in like Safari on our Android or this. Absolutely, very, very critical, right? That it has to work on both.
All right, guys, just one more question. All right.
Hopefully this is the last one. So as you gone through your business model is to basically target multiple verticals, basically. Can you share some experience on which particular ones that are a little bit more resistant to adoption? For example, maybe finance or retail finance side or.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you which is the one working the most, right? Which is we're targeting businesses that are B2B mostly, that have a sales team, right? Most B2B sales team, BDRs, and marketing. So they already have traction, they're making money, and now they need to increase their revenue. And so a lot of companies fall into two buckets for us. Is like they either have request a demo as a form or start a trial and you can do it by yourself. Either of those two companies that do stuff like that is working really well because we're helping them increase the revenue and the opportunity. For like e-commerce, we need to do more work to integrate more into like a Shopify, to be able to have more like recommendations and things and do upgrades and do packages. But there's a lot of stuff I see so easy to do, but we're not picking that vertical just yet. Because we depend on Shopify for that, and we're like, not want to depend our whole business on that yet. And then there's other B2C. It gets complicated because they don't want to staff a team of chat, and they're like, I just want the bot, and I just want no humans, or they have other requirements or security, so it becomes more complicated. But so we're like right now trying to stay a little bit away from B2Cs and e-commerce and focusing on any online business that has real revenue, and they're like, bring it on. I want to see if this helps.